and you will see it from the way it is written. The title is, I Am What I Am. I am a statement seeking a platform. The vocal cord that seizes your eardrum to attune you to my drum beats. I am the voice that must be heard, the surge that cannot be quelled. I am the earthquake that must take place, the little leaven that must live on the lump to fatten the unfed. I am the elusive heart of mankind, the destiny that must be. You know, across the world, people have lost their places, their homestead, and those of you up north here are very familiar with it now, especially since the advent of Boko Haram. So people lose their heritage, what has been ancestral to them, what they have acquired and have become a part of their history and heritage, and suddenly it is no longer theirs. Places like Baji and their territory in Abuja, that they have to give up because the country must have a federal capital territory. Is any Baji person here? Is it Baji or Bagi? How is it pronounced?
We say Gwari here.
Gwari. But I understand the right pronunciation is Bagi. So I'm dedicating this poem to any such people who have lost their territory. The title of the poem is The Other June 12 Deprived. For Bakassi, Gwari, Bushmen, and others, this is the people to whom this has been dedicated. Because Bakassi was lost, and we all know that, some of us may know the story. Bakassi is in southern Nigeria, somewhere in Cross River, that was lost because of the civil war. You know, a very dangerous bargain that was gotten into. Until today, the people in Bakassi are still suffering, almost unattended to. And so a time came when I read up his story, I needed to give it a poetic expression. And this is the outcome of my creative treatment of a historical occurrence. The other June 12 deprived. Because first of all, before I go into the poem, we are familiar with the June 12. Yes. About an election, about a believed victory that was denied. This is also about some kind of deprivation. And that is the connection. And I have to title it in a manner that when you remember June 12, you also remember there is another June 12 of the same day when some people were signed off. And now I read it. The other June 12 deprived for Bakassi, Gwari, Bushmen, and others. If all they lost was a collective voice of the same choice, they would have made do with the sign language. And I take it again. If all they lost was a collective voice of the same choice, they would have made do with sign language. But they signed them out of their ancestry with the scribbling stroke of a penknife. If all they lost was a deprived throne of honor, they would have been content with a recompense. But they signed them out of their ancestry with a stroke of a felt penknife. If all they lost was allowing a joint decision weigh heavily on the tribe concerned, they would have borne the bitter burden of betrayal. Where do a yanked off people start? And I ask again, where do a yanked off people start? How do their old and young bear the overbearing burden of a mortifying memory? Tell me, how do the displaced people of Bakassi begin to evacuate the graves of their foreparents? On what head will they carry the unending memories locked up in the treasure groves of their forced eviction? disinherited from what was forever theirs? On what shoulders will they bear the immovable cultural libraries etched into their distant pasts? Tell me, I say, how would their aged ones look to their end in graves never to be shared with their forebears? Yet, this sitting head that signed the papers snatched the dead body of his Asian wife to have his way at any price. How do you relocate etched ancestral ties of men, masquerades, and the milieu of the living, the dead, and the unborn, of the invisible ties and interactions of yesteryears? How do they rest their returning hearts, if they ever rest their bungled bodies? If these, their newly borrowed dwellings, how do they sleep away a sleeping life? How do they accept their own June 12 under a green tree, the day they signed them out of their ancestry with the inscribed stroke of a felt pen knife? And still, they insist their names are still in the registry. The answer, they're displaced and replaced, is in the ways of migratory birds and amphibians, in the restless feet of mankind. It is in knowing that indigents were also settlers. It is in never forgetting that settlers are latter comers amongst other fellow comers. And I take that line again. The answer, they're displaced and replaced, is in the ways of migratory birds and amphibians, in the restless feet of mankind. It is in knowing that indigents were also settlers. It is in never forgetting that settlers are latter-day comers amongst other fellow comers. So keep Kit and King company with the Gwari before Abuja, whose only heart was taken away to give us a central nervous system, or is it a central nervous breakdown?